wording changed. Chapter 5, Curriculum Adaptation, a Demand for Inclusive Education. Dr. Dhaval P. Vyas. Abstract. Inclusive education means education of all children, where all children are equal participants in the learning process. This right is given by the Indian Constitution to each child. Provision of inclusive education is based on the belief that those with disabilities should not have to depend on specialized services alone to benefit from educational resources, activities, and practices that are otherwise available to all. Inclusion is maintained when all students of a group are able to participate in its activities, which mean provisions made are considerate of all students and not just those from specific groups or with special abilities, disabilities, and/or needs. Inclusion is a process of a key strategy to reach out to all children and support their learning. It's the right time to upgrade and make more concentration on the development of curriculum for inclusive education, both for teachers and the children with special needs, CWSN. For this, there is need to do adaptation in the curriculum. Adapting the curriculum involves differentiating instruction to provide students with a variety of ways to process information and demonstrate what they have learned. Curriculum adaptation is an ongoing dynamic process that modifies and adapts the prescribed program of studies to meet the learning requirements of children with special needs. It enables the teaching team to welcome students of all abilities and ensures that every student is challenged to learn. Curriculum adaptation is needed in every part in the student's day. This paper highlights the methods and importance of curriculum adaptation in inclusive education. Keywords: curriculum adaptation, inclusive education, children with special needs, inclusive curriculum. Introduction. Curriculum is the heart of any educational system. Its quality determines the effectiveness of education. As is the curriculum, so is the educative process. It is a powerful instrument for social change and progress. Every society preserves its past, improve its present standard, and ensure its growth. In this venture, effective planning, curriculum development, and transaction is an important input. We shall discuss in this paper about concept and planning of curriculum, concept of inclusive education, concept, areas, and advantages of curriculum adaptation. TASH, concept of curriculum. The word curriculum is derived from the Latin root currere, which means a chariot or runway. It has same meaning as the word course in English. It also resembles Sanskrit and Hindi term karyakram, which means program. Thus, curriculum is sum total of the program of various activities providing learning experience for the all-round development of students. The statements given below show various aspects of curriculum. It means purposeful program of studies in an educational institution. It means the content of the subject taught to students. It means all the learning experiences provided by teachers in the classroom and out of the classroom. It means organized and formal program of teaching and learning and co-curricular activities. It means the periodical evaluation of students' performance to judge their learning outcomes. You should read carefully the following definitions and try to comprehend the meaning and scope of each definition. All the learning which is planned and guided by the teacher, whether it is carried on in groups or individually inside and outside the school. Kerr, 1960. Curriculum is the sum total of student activities which the school sponsors for the purpose of achieving its objectives. Alberti and Alberti, 1959. Curriculum refers to the total structure of ideas and activities developed by an educational institution to meet the needs of students and to achieve desired educational aims. Derek Rowntree, 1981. Every curriculum passes through planning. If the curriculum planning is effective, then the curriculum will be effective too. So we should know the meaning of curriculum planning and factors affected to curriculum planning. Curriculum planning. By curriculum planning, we mean the construction of curriculum in view of the goals and needs of a community. The curriculum planners have to study the following requirements. What are the goals and policies of education in a country? What are the educational needs of students in personal, social, and vocational areas? What are the directions in which knowledge is growing and affecting human life? What are the values of life and will sustain the younger generation in changing times? What are the professional skills needed in the youth to gain success in life and career? Accordingly, curriculum planning has to be based on the following 5 factors as illustrated in Figure 1.1. 1. Developmental needs of the students. According to Piaget's theory of cognitive development, a child moves from sensory motor stage to a pre-operational stage, then comes the third stage of concrete operations, followed by the fourth stage of formal operation. Since the children need all-round development of personality, all kinds of learning experiences are to be provided through curriculum, which should include co-curricular activities also. Societal needs. As the society is changing with times due to various influences in our modern age of science and technology, the future citizens must be prepared for the new challenges and issues through well-planned curriculum. In brief, one can say that the existing and emerging needs of the society must be reflected in school-college curriculum. Vocational needs. Every child has to prepare for living and for life and career in future. The economic development is changing as the new tools and materials of work are now in use in every field of activity. The learner has to pick up new skills and learn new attitudes of work ethics and work culture so that they can contribute to the developing economy of country. National 4. National needs. Every nation considers education as the national investment and expects returns in terms of efficient workers and good citizens. The quality of nation depends upon the quality of citizens we produce through our educational system. Hence, curriculum is the main tool in education to produce right output for the country. Nabezhdeshnar 5. International needs. Today, we are living in a competitive and open world. Every nation has to maintain the modern standards in education, and hence the curriculum at all levels should be comparable and up to date. The amount of knowledge in every field is growing very rapidly, and hence curriculum should be revamped at regular intervals. The qualified and competent product of our education system have already got good jobs abroad due to standard curriculum followed in our schools and colleges now. Concept and definitions of inclusive education. As a teacher, you may have observed that children are different from each other. For example, some students learn slowly while others learn fast. Some need more support and guidance while learning, whereas others seem to learn on their own. You may have also observed that to enable some students to learn, you need to spend more time both inside and outside the classroom. Thus, inclusive education refers to the act of ensuring that all children, despite their differences, receive the opportunity of being a part of the same classroom as other children of their age, and in the process get the opportunity of learning the curriculum to their optimal potential. To understand the nature of inclusive education, let us examine some views and definitions as follows. Open quote. Inclusive education aims to provide a favorable environment for achieving equal opportunities and full participation for all, bringing children with special needs within the reach of general education. It recognizes the diverse needs of the students and ensures equality education to all through appropriate curriculum, teaching strategies, support services, and partnership with the community and parents. In simple words, inclusive education means that all children with and without disability learn together. Advani and Chadha, 2003, close quote. Open quote. Inclusive education is the implementation of the policy and the process that allows all children to actively participate in all programs. It is nothing more than making the program for disabled children an integral part of the general education system, rather than a system within general education. Manavanan, 2001, close quote, open quote. Inclusive education involves changes and modifications in content, approaches, structures, and strategies with a common vision which covers all children of the appropriate age range and a conviction that it is the responsibility of the regular system to educate all children. UNESCO, 2005, close quote. Open quote. Inclusive education means all the students are enrolled in the general education classroom based on their appropriate age group, which is situated at their neighborhood schools to receive high-quality instruction, interventions, and supports that enable them to success in the core curriculum. Bui, Quirk, Almazan, and Valenti, 2010, Al-Quraini and Gutt, 2012, close quote. Open quote. Inclusive education has to identify and acknowledge to their students with diverse needs, accommodating their different learning styles and rates, and ensuring quality education to all through appropriate curriculum, infrastructure, teaching methods and techniques, use of resources, and collaboration with their communities. Salamanca Framework for Action 1994, close quote. The above definitions give the clear idea of the nature of inclusive education, which can be summarized as follows. It works on the principle of placing all children in the education system. There is no discrimination on the basis of disability for admission in school. General education classroom in the neighborhood school is the placement option for a child. As a policy matter, inclusive education provides a right to the children with disability for being educated with the children without disability without any differentiation. All children in the school will participate in school program and curriculum. Inclusion recommends the education of children with disability in overall general educational structure by adapting the entire education system, which includes the following: U school structure, U building, U furniture, U teaching, U classroom management, U the curriculum, adaptation of textbooks, instructional strategies, and also the evaluation process. Concept, advantages, principles, and areas of curriculum adaptation. Curriculum adaptation is a continuous dynamic process that modifies and adapts the prescribed curriculum to meet the learning needs of children with special needs. It allows the group of teachers to welcome students of all abilities and ensures that each student is challenged to learn. Curriculum adaptation is modification that relates specifically to instruction or content of a curriculum. Further, it could be adjustments or modifications to I, teaching and learning environment, T, teaching and learning techniques, T, teaching and learning support materials that enhances a learner's performance or allows at least partial participation in a learning activity, IV, learning programs, and V, assessment. The National Curriculum Statement, NCS, adopts inclusive approach by specifying minimum requirements for all students. The special educational, social, emotional, and physical needs of students will be addressed in the design and development of appropriate learning programs, DOE 2, P10. The National Curriculum Statement, NCS, has several components that are flexible enough to allow for adaptation. Examples of these flexible features include learning outcomes do not prescribe content or method. Therefore, the content and the methodology can be adapted to a student's needs. DOE 2002, Summary of Revised National Curriculum Statement, P14. Activities can be flexible. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P10. The context can be made relevant to the student's needs. DOE 2003 Guide, Teachers Learning Programs Development, P10. More time can be provided for assessment and execution of a task. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, 11. Methods of assessment are flexible. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P-Pot 1. The learning program can be structured to meet the needs of the specific students. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P2. Students can communicate using sign language, braille, assistive devices, or any other communication method. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, 1. Expectations can be adapted to the abilities of the learner within the framework of the high expectations. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P12. The curriculum emphasizes the principles of social justice, healthy environment, human rights, and inclusivity. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development. 5. Teachers are encouraged to consider any particular barriers to learning and/or assessment that exist in different learning areas and make provision for these when developing learning programs. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P7. Assessment standards can be broken into finer components. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P1. A lesson plan time allocation can range from a single activity up to a term's teaching or more time if necessary, depending on the needs of the learner. DOE 2003, Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P1. Time allocation and weightings regarding learning outcomes and learning programs should vary according to the student's need. 2003 Teacher's Guide to Learning Programs Development, P6. The number and nature of a learning program at a school can vary depending on the availability of staff, resources, and the needs of students. Flexibility in the selection of appropriate assessment standards according to the individual needs of a learner is possible on the recommendation of the assessment team in the case of a learner not capable of achieving a general education certificate. Work schedules and learning programs are not limited to a grade year. Differently abled students may require acceleration or slowing down of the process. Integrity in the learning areas in a phase and across phases is possible. Advantages of curriculum adaptation are listed as follows. 1. It is a learner-centered approach. 2. Necessitates changes in educational environment, correlates the prevailing situations. 4. Gives learner equal opportunities to access education. 5. Helps students to take part in the learning process. 6. It allows for small chunks of work according to the student's needs. 7. It helps the teachers to differentiate and accommodate the ability of the learner. 8. It accommodates diversity. 9. It is responsive to the student's needs. 10. It allows for flexibility or adjustment to suit the needs of learner. 11. It is based on the learner's pace and style. Areas of curriculum adaptation. Effective curriculum adaptations may be described in 4 primary categories as follows. 1. Instructional strategies. 2. Instructional materials. 3. Curricular content. 4. Assessment practice. Taster 1. Adapting instructional strategies. The first category of curriculum adaptations refer to a change in the way a teacher teaches, that is, in the methodology she uses to provide information to learners in her classroom. These involve a change in the learner's instructional input. Adaptation in the instructional process can be achieved through myriad techniques. Incorporating the use of demonstrations or role play. Utilizing teacher presentation cues, e.g., gestural, visual, or verbal, to emphasize key point. Scaffolding key concepts to be learned. And getting students more actively involved in the learning process through the implementation of every student's response techniques, e.g., response cards, thumbs up, thumbs down, etc., or the incorporation of manipulative for learners' use. This category also includes the practice of diversifying group selection for instructional, so as not to rely solely on large group or instructional groups for the whole classroom and independent work arrangements for seating. Varying instructional design to include a variety of small group and cooperative learning activities is another effective practice by which to adapt classroom instruction. Providing students with the content of the curriculum through means other than traditional written text implies providing an alternative to the reading requirements intrinsically associated with the treatment of printed materials. Though the most obvious adaptation to traditional reading involves a peer or adult or reading aloud to a learner, a number of other possibilities exist through the adaptation of instructional materials. Adapting instructional materials. Adapting teaching materials involves making changes to the equipment and/or supplies to which a learner has access during the course of instruction. This involves a change in the formats through which information is represented to the learner or the learner's engagement with the curriculum during the course of instruction. The process of adapting materials provides additional or simply different materials in a variety of modalities that the learners might use during the course of instruction. The adaptations of most of the materials fall into one of 4 groups: adjusting the readability level of written materials, enhancing critical features of the content within the materials themselves, designing materials with features that appeal to sensory modalities other than visual, auditory, selecting alternate instructional materials regarding their durability and safety components. The adaptation of the level of readability can be done by providing contents similar to the unit currently studied through a lower-level reading book, a compressed text, or a low vocabulary reader of high interest. Furthermore, the reading demand is adapted when the content of the study plan is represented through graphic, iconic, or pictorial forms, 3-dimensional models, or digitized media. Examples include the use of audio tapes, videotapes, internet-based resources, textbook or manual software, and universally designed materials. The improvement of the critical characteristics of the content implies the adaptation of the lesson materials in order to identify the most essential for the student's content. Advanced or later organizers who introduce bold new vocabulary words, the keywords highlighted in a passage of reading, the acronyms and summaries of the main ideas represent some commonly used adaptations of this type. It is possible to design multiple modal materials that are attractive to kinesthetic and tactile sensory systems, in contrast to materials that are attractive only to visual or auditory processes. For example, students who physically walk a colored ribbon path on the floor to learn the path of blood flow from the heart instead of studying a color chart in a book, or rap with hand gestures while learning language concepts recently introduced. Finally, sometimes alternative teaching materials will necessarily be selected for their duration or safety characteristics, in consideration of the student's physical coordination or motor skills. In the science laboratory, instead of its fragile equivalents, a plastic cup or a petri dish can be used, or a student can be given a soft book or a book with laminated pages instead of the traditional text. 3. Adapting curricular content. This third category of adaptations involves the variation of what is taught, that is, the complexity and nature of the content presented during a study unit. This type of adaptation to the curriculum translates into an adaptation of the cognitive demand for a learning task for one or more particular students. Adapting curriculum content might involve applications as straightforward as I. Reduce the number of vocabulary words assigned to an individual child. Having a learner complete only the odd-numbered problems on a mathematics assignment. Holding a learner responsible for learning 3 facts about one animal instead of 2 facts about each of 5 different species. IV, affording students the choice of taking a spelling pretest to opt out of spelling for a particular week. Individualized adaptations of content can also be achieved through teaching based on restructured concepts. The adaptation of the cognitive question in a lesson generally implies adaptation to the attention, thought, and or memory requirements associated with a given content. In association with hierarchical interrogation techniques, this approach can lead a large number of students to participate significantly in a lesson from the general curriculum. F4. Adapting assessment practice. The final category of curriculum accommodation refers to alternatives in the way a teacher obtains information from one or more students in their class. This involves a change in the student's educational output. The adaptation of the evaluation practices is not limited to the extension of the test parameters, for example, time redistributed in a power test, use of a scribe for registration purposes. This class of curricular adaptations also includes the use of multiple criteria to evaluate student products, providing structured response frameworks in worksheets and exams, evaluating processes equally with end products, and offering students a variety of coping strategies, practice, and options to produce the required tasks. Offering students the opportunity to respond to instructions in a non-traditional way, as well as through typical oral acting or written expression, is also included in this final category of curricular adaptations. Alternative student SAMs may include collage, sculpture, pantomime, theater, musical composition, motor demonstration, photographic presentation, or graphic display. If you want, as it is, principles of curriculum adaptation. Curricular adaptation for children with special needs to offer effective opportunities to all children based on 3 key principles. Set up appropriate learning challenges to respond to the different learning needs of children. Overcome potential obstacles to learning and assessing individuals and groups for children. Figure 1.2, Needs of Inclusive Curriculum. As the figure number 1.2 shows, the curriculum for all needs to be 1. Child-centered. Children with disabilities need child-centered curriculum, which takes into account the individual needs of children. The curriculum needs to set specific observable, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely SOMART. 2. Flexibility. A flexible curriculum at local level. Teaching and learning strategies are intrinsically important for children with special needs to participate in the educational process. 3. Participation. Children with special needs require a learning environment in which they can actively participate in learning in small groups. 4. Association with parents. Association with parents is a key factor since children learn not only in the classroom but also at home. For children with visual, locomotor, hearing impairment, and intellectual impairment, addition and deletion to the general curriculum is required, but for children with mental retardation, a holistic curriculum considering the child's abilities, skills, and interest by implementing an IEP, inclusive education policy, will be effective. Has challenges to fostering an inclusive curriculum. There is no universal model for fostering and implementing an inclusive curriculum. Multiple stakeholders, multiple visions and approaches, e.g., the competency-based approach, evidence-based approach, problem-based approach, etc. It involves building a curricular vision to synthesize and integrate this diversity of points of view and interests. 70. Creating inclusive classrooms. The lack of clear objectives and definitions gives rise to dilemmas in trying to understand and measure the efficiency and effectiveness of inclusion in schools. Progress made largely depends on how countries understand and define quality and success in education, as well as how they implement their vision through the curriculum. In part, due to the lack of conclusive research evidence, the exchange of effective experiences and practices can strengthen the understanding of EI and consequently encourage the development of an inclusive curriculum, evidence-based approach. An inclusive curriculum is only as good as its development in the classroom, and thus the teacher. Teachers are key partners in curriculum development and must be involved in all aspects and at all levels. Teacher education curricula, pre-service and in-service, and more generally, teachers' professional development must be reviewed to prepare teachers for an inclusive education system. Appropriate resources and materials, strong networks, communities of practices, as well as community and institutional support are all essential in engaging and supporting teachers. Conclusion. The effective design of curricular adaptations represents an approach to teaching which may not require a significant amount of additional work from teachers, although it certainly represents a different way of teaching. Adapting the curriculum to meet the needs of different students involves differentiated education to provide all students with a variety of ways to process information and demonstrate what they have learned in order to match the way each individual learns more, effective and efficient. It would be helpful for a teacher to imagine the children in his class say, open quote, "While we are all in the same classroom, we are not all in the same place," close quote.